All right. All right. So, Mark. So, Greg, what we'll do is we'll just let the person whose piece this is talk about it, and then you will welcome to give your critique.
You got
So,
it.
Mark.
All right. Yeah, good to see everyone tonight. So yeah, this weekend I decided maybe it would be fun to try to do a little bit of this. So it's not as green as I would generally enjoy working with. It was beside the garage, reasonably kept. But anyway, so this is river birch, and yeah, well, so that's it. They're fun to do. The birch, I usually don't color wood actually, but the birch did seem a little bit boring. And for these, I thought maybe it needed something. So my choices of colors had to do with the dyes that I have, which I have yellow, red, and I have black ink. So there you go. So it was red, and then I, added the black, kind of on a second pass for the stem and the bottoms. So this picture, right, is all about. So on this one it's actually fairly wide. I don't know what it's 7-8 inches across, and it's actually a crotch piece. So that really made it eccentric. And my mistake, I made a tear there in that top right area. That had to do with, I thought I would be really cool, and I cut the inside, and I thought I would sand it, which was a big mistake, because if you have wings and you try to sand, you're going to feather the leading edge. And then if you really try to cut it thin, you're going to find out where it's thinnest. So anyway, so that's showing my mistakes. But otherwise, I thought it was fun to do. The pith is significant on each of them, is significantly off center, so there's no pith in the stem. And I semi-hollowed the bases. I just kind of cut in at an angle. But anyway, so there it is. They don't bend, but I enjoy them right now.
They look great. They really do. I think you got the thickness in the top, the flower part. I think you got that down. I mean, they look thin enough. I mean, and
well, yeah, the smaller one I did measure with a micrometer, and it's 30 thousandths.
Right.
So I can't get a whole lot thinner than that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they look great. They really do. Yeah, as far as the bend goes, I mean, if the wood's not green enough, and if it's somewhat dry, it'll be a tougher go trying to bend it, obviously. If it's longer, maybe, but
Sure. And I'm not so excited about the bend. And I'm kind of right now, my aesthetic doesn't allow me to wet them and stick them in the microwave and do these kinds of things. And doing the thin tops, and I should have made the tops flatter. By cupping them as much as I did, that made them less likely to warp crazily. So I think maybe the next one I'll try playing around with exactly how flat I want to go and see what happens with that. I guess yours are much flatter.
Yeah, they can be. Yeah, you can make. Yeah, that's a definite advantage to these, is you can make the top shape any which way you want. You can make a cup shape like these, or you can come in very flat. And in my experience, obviously, yes, the flatter they are, the more movement you're going to get.
Right, the more they'll go crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, so that's my offering.
Fantastic. Love it. And I love the color too. I really do.
I love the color.
Thanks. I had fun doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you guys.
Yeah.
It was me. Oh, I can't believe this is the only picture I have. I probably made a dozen of these in, like 5 years ago or something. And I have to tell you, I broke a lot of wood. But I heat the shop with wood, so it works great. They're interesting, a lot of fun to make.
Yeah, they are fun.
I think it's maple.
And was that, so Jim, you said this was turned several years ago?
Yeah, I think about 5 years ago or something. I don't remember
Mhm.
where I saw it or why I made it or anything else, but I must have made a dozen of them at least, but that's the only picture I've got.
Yeah.
So did Greg really learn from you how to make these?
No, he probably was making them a long time ago. I don't remember where I got it. It had a little stamen in the center. Uh, I don't know. Most of them were flatter. I don't know whether they were thinner or not, but
What was your bending method, Jim?
I think I just put a weight on it and left it sit there for a week or something like that, to tell you the truth. I had a bar of steel, and I remember the first bar I put on was a little too heavy. And I have trouble bending wood. I really do. I can turn anything, but I tell you, bending wood is, I can turn a hat, but when I've broken more hats bending, I get enthusiastic or something. It starts bending, I put a little more pressure and they get all wound up. But anyway, it's a fun project. I wish I had pictures of the other ones.
Yeah.
What's the black thing in the center of the pod?
That's just a little stamen. I made a little stamen and just touch it with magic marker or something.
Jim, this is one piece of wood,
Yes.
and the other one was one piece of wood.
Yeah.
You talk about marks or?
Mark?
The
Yeah, it's one
previous,
Was
Yeah.
that the question? Was Mark's one piece of wood? Was that the question?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Mark, I assume it was, right?
Oh, yeah. Marks were each one piece of wood. Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Well, thanks, Jim. All right, Reed, are you on?
I'll be here, my friends.
Okay, good. Well, tell us about your podlets.
Friend of mine around the corner here in Cary had 6 30-foot tall red tips that had totally outgrown the area. Plus, it seems like just about every red tip in Cary is dying. So I was helping them clean up. And of course, we had the show program 2 months ago. And so I brought home some good wet wood red tip and made the 2 small ones down at the very bottom. And then discovered that show and tell last month wasn't for this product. So went back up and made some more. Probably made about 5 or 6, and about 3 of them probably cracked. So they're fun to make, but this is just natural color, natural wood. Took a 2-liter water bottle, Mountain Dew bottle, filled with water, and just laid it down to create the curve on the two larger ones. The 2 smaller ones, I actually just took a clamp, just about a 6-inch clamp, and just tightened it on the edge a little bit, just enough to give it that curve that you see on the smaller ones.
Did it have to be Mountain Dew?
Had to be Mountain Dew, yes.
So no microwave involved.
No, I'm not allowed to bring wood inside the house from that point.
They're good. Absolutely. I like the in this picture I like the base and the one in the back. Did you put like a little bead or something on the towards the bottom of it?
I do. I probably got a 3/8 and a 1/16 bead
Mhm.
tool.
Okay.
And it's just so easy, especially with the wood being so green and so wet,
Yeah.
just to do that. And
Yeah.
the fun part is the red tip. I made some other stuff, bird feeders,
Mhm.
out of the same stuff, and they it's not cracking like you would think an oak or a maple might do
Mhm.
as it dries out.
Right.
So if you got red tips that are 30 foot high,
Mhm.
that's what these came from, was the trunk of the tree,
Right.
not the limbs.
Right. Okay.
Hey, Reed, do you have any more of that wood? I'd like to come get some.
I've got one piece that's maybe 14 inches long, and the rest of the 6 trees, 30 foot high, have gone to the town of Cary's landfill.
All right.
We cleaned up the spot, and he's taking me out to dinner.
All right. No problem.
All right. Well, thanks.
Very
Reed.
good.
Thank you.
All right, Stefan.
So this is at work, and other than medicine, we also talk about hobbies to get to know each other. And a pharmacist from Seattle, we talked about madrone wood. And since we live here, I don't have access to madrone wood. So next time she went to Seattle, she got this madrone wood from her uncle, but she didn't realize what wood turning really is. And she brought back these sticks. And I didn't think I could make anything out of it. So I just left it be until Greg presented his talk. And I found, man, I could make a podlet out of those things. So if you just go to the next image, I made a podlet that's really tiny, and I have it for size purposes right here. It's 1 inch in diameter up on top. And I like particularly about it, the bark color, and I left the bark intact up above and down below. I also had a piece of manzanita wood, which I had collected in Southern California 2 years ago, because it has this beautiful reddish, brownish heartwood and an incredible bark. It has this gray, silver, old bark that you see on top, and it's also underneath. And then on the 2 sides, it has this more fresh bark, which really has the same brownish, reddish color as the madrone wood. And I didn't know what to make out of that piece from California, so I had it lying around for 2 years. And when I compared those two, all of a sudden I found, man, they fit into each other. So I drilled a hole into the madrone wood right here. And that's where this thing here fits in to stand right there. So that's what 2 pieces of wood did together that I didn't know what to do with, but I just liked them. And then the idea from a colleague, Woodturner, which I appreciate, and this is my final product. I did not try to bend it because the madrone wood was already dry, and I'm happy either way. If it had bent, that would have been fine. I like it the way it is at the moment.
Yeah, I remember this one on Instagram. Yeah, I love it. I like the fact that you left the bark on. And I like the manzanita base, obviously. I do like the fact that, you know, that you use the sticks even though they were so tiny, you know what I mean? And still, you know, tried to get something out of them, because it's really striking because you left the bark on, which I really enjoy. So,
Thank
and
you.
that's part of this whole thing is I love to see what other people come up with, and you always love to see what other people, the ideas that they have. So hey, it's great. I love it.
I love that too. And I also love that the interactions with other people, non-wood turners, like the pharmacist, who all of a sudden got interested in madrone wood, didn't know
Mhm.
much about it, got interested in wood turning to some degree. And when
Sure.
I sent her this image on Instagram, she was just thrilled. And I can imagine how she talked to her uncle about the use of those wooden sticks.
Mhm. Absolutely. It's great.
This
Thank
is
you.
a
Beautiful stuff, Stefan.
Yep, it really is.
Thanks, Mark.
this is a pretty good. This is a good example of, there's some people who watch a demo and say, well, sometimes they'll say, well, I don't do that because for some reason, or they'll make something exactly like what was,
Mhm.
demonstrated. And this is a good example of using a demonstration of a form to be the inspiration for something relatively different. And I think
Yep.
it's nice the way that happens. And to just take something like that and say, well, the inspiration was Greg's demo, but something totally different. So I think that's it
Yeah.
really is. It's good to see.
Absolutely. Great.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. All right, Tom.
Okay, this is a demonstration of my very poor photography. A little blurry on the bottom, but a lot of first here. I didn't have any branch wood, but I did have some white oak that is offcuts from bow blanks I was making. So this thing is a little about 4.5 inches tall. And it actually is one of the first pieces that I've done a stem on. That's not something I've done before. And that stem is a little over 1/8 of an inch thick. So, in diameter, which is what I was going for. And I almost lost this one because the top cracked, but I was able to get some super glue on it and get it back in and was able to finish it. And this was the very first one I did. And it was actually the only one of about 5 different ones that survived. The rest of them, either through flaws in the wood on the stem or my incompetence with the lathe tools, I broke into bits and pieces during the process. So this thing is, it's not too big. It's about 2.25 inches wide. It's got a heavy enough bottom. It stands. This is also the first piece I ever put in a microwave, and I didn't get it to bend because, as near as I can figure, I kind of nodded off during that portion of the demonstration. And I went back afterwards and watched the ending and saw how you actually achieve the bending. And I was going to do it on the next piece, but I never got a next piece that far along. And but I tried this one, and it was scaring me because the water was bubbling out of this. It was boiling off. So I was afraid that I was going to burn it. So I'd do 30 seconds and it would get hot. And I could see particularly on the bottom, the water was really boiling out because that's the thickest portion. And it was getting kind of hot. So I let it cool a while, and I did it a few times, and it did bend a little bit on its own. But it was really fun to do. I just wish I had branch wood, and I wish I need a bunch more practice on this type of thing. So I'll do more, but I didn't have any opportunity to get branches. So that'll come along one of these days, because there's always tree work. And but it was fun, and just something really different for me. So thanks for the demo, and thanks for giving me yet something else to try.
No, absolutely. And that's what it's all about. And, the practice is just that, it's practice. And then, you can look at it as that, and until you can find some good fresh branches, then you just keep making them out of what you got, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I do like the little bead, the larger bead on towards the bottom of the base. I like that too. That's different. And
Yeah,
I do like that.
Yeah, I just was, when I was doing that end of it, I just wanted to add just a little bit of I thought it looked really plain, and I thought, well, that gave
Mhm.
it something. And it's hard to tell in the picture, but there's actually, I cut a line through the center of the bead as well. You just can't see it very well in the picture because I didn't darken it. I didn't try to burn it or anything like that to highlight it. But it was, yeah, it was just an extra little element I tried to add to make a point of interest.
When you
Yeah.
use the microwave technique and it bubbles out and gets heated,
We lost you,
I
Steve.
think his audio dropped.
His
Mhm.
picture froze, so.
Oh, you're-
Are you saying this was side grain?
This, no, it wasn't side grain.
It's end grain, it looks like.
It was end grain, but it had, this oak has lots of, it's got
Medulla.
the rays across it that go across the grain and everything, but, and it's only a little over 1/8 of an inch thick,
Mhm.
even on the, where is it here? There, on this piece. So it's, oh, it disappeared. Ah, there it is.
Yeah, there it
Oh, hello. Okay, it's all right. It's not gonna.
Not gonna work with your background.
Yeah, it doesn't like my background, so
It looks thin enough to bend.
I think
So
it
the
would
stem-
have if
yeah.
I had gotten some weight on it, but
Mhm.
since I didn't know that I was supposed to do that because like I say, I fell asleep. So the next one I was going to do, and it just well, it wasn't going to be. So
Right.
I'll get there one of these days. I'm definitely doing it again.
Oh yeah.
All right. Good job, Tom. Good first try.
Oh yeah.
All right, Preston.
Yeah, speaking of first tries, I was real happy with myself. This is really the thinnest I've probably ever turned, and I didn't add the picture, but I could see light through the wood. It had a little wet to it, but I didn't anticipate how bad the pith was,
Mhm.
and so you can see how all the random cuts on the face of from the face of it there on the top right picture. I don't know how that happened. I was being very, very careful, trying to make as soft of cuts as I could, and then bam, the thing comes off the lathe and got a little tiny cut on my arm.
Mhm.
And I glued the podlet back together, and now it's just petals instead of podlets.
Right.
So I definitely need some more practice. And I noticed that you had a tub that you were soaking your branches in. Is that something that's going to help me? This one was probably wet earlier this year.
Mhm.
Well, it wasn't. It was just damp. It wasn't really. No
Right.
water was coming out of it when I cut it.
Yeah. Preston, I would you know, if it's not what I do if the wood's not super fresh and freshly cut is I will, since it's still wet enough to turn green, you know, I'll do all my turning and, you know, get it to my thickness and everything and just turn it completely. And then I will soak them.
Oh, okay.
Right. And then, you know, how long to soak them. And that really depends on, you know, that's going to depend on wood type and, you know, thickness and all that other kind of stuff. But, you know, it's a good rule of thumb that, you know, I'll just let them soak for a while, probably maybe a good few hours, you know, and then take one out and give it a shot and see how it goes.
Okay.
You know, and then if it needs more, it needs more. If it, you know, if it bent really good from just that soaking, then, you know, you're good to go. But, you know, I've turned some, what kind of wood was this?
This is red bud. I've never turned
Okay.
it before, and I thought it would be cool because it's got a big contrast between the heartwood and the sapwood, and it was sort of
Right.
oval. It wasn't round either.
Yeah, I had some red bud, and I tried to make some out of it, and you know, I got I got to the point where I put it in the microwave and everything. The bases cracked really bad
Mm.
on all of them, and some woods are like that. So, and I'm only going to say it because it's probably a fast growing tree, maybe,
Yep.
or something like that. That like I'm trying to think of the other type of tree it was, but it was the same, growth pattern. But yeah, it seems like those trees that like a red bud or something where, they're somewhat fast growing and really pretty wood though. But, once I get it to the point where I'm going to dry it in the microwave, yeah, the bases they crack automatically and there's nothing you can do about it.
Mm. Well, I have a new appreciation for things that I haven't tried before. I thought,
Mhm.
well, I'll just do this. It'll be similar to making a bowl, but nope. The spindle turning was a lot different than what I'm used to.
Right.
So,
It's a little bit different skill set,
kudos to you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a little bit different, but like I said, with a little practice, the learning learning to make those cuts, is not necessarily hard. It's just a repetition and the muscle memory
Right.
of doing it over and over and over again.
I did find out I had to have sharp tools. I had to sharpen more than I was used to on this. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that obviously that's always a good rule of thumb for anything, but especially turning green wood, you want your tools really sharp.
Mm-hmm.
To get that really good cut. But I've had pieces like this where the pith is like that too, where it's just either chewed up like that and then it's got more cracks radiating out from it that extend into the pith or into the where the stem's going to be. So, that's,
Yep.
You don't know that until you get in there though. So that's the only bad part about them, I guess, or the tricky part.
So I was getting some vibration too out there.
Mm-hmm. What were you getting some vibration like when you were going to turn the actual cup part, like at the very beginning of it?
Yep.
Yeah.
On both the front face and the rear face.
Right. So usually what I'll do if I start to get a little bit of vibration, how long was this piece?
About 9 inches.
Okay.
So I was also getting vibration when I was trying to just whittle wood away. So maybe I didn't have it chucked good. I still have the piece. I haven't cut the chuck off. So I'm gonna look at it again.
Yeah. That's a couple of different things to check, right? And one is that you have a good, tenon on it and you have a good seat in the chuck, obviously.
Yep.
And then, if you're still getting some vibration, back it out and just start taking really light cuts. What I'll do is I'll usually grab like I have a bowl, like a 3/8 bowl gouge, but it's not shallow, but I have it ground down to almost like a spindle gouge with a pretty round tip on it. So I'll use that and it works pretty good at taking really light cuts. And since that tip is, I have it ground swept back quite a bit, almost like a spindle gouge, that it seems to, it cuts clean, but it takes a lighter cut than a heavier 1/2 inch bowl gouge would or something like that. So,
from the end view,
yeah, go ahead.
From the end view of that, it looks so checked. I don't think you could ever get a thin spindle out of it, could you? It looks like it's got checks all over it.
I agree.
Yeah, those cracks are going to go right into the stem.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could probably turn it, but eventually, if you got to the point where you could put it in the microwave and you got it off the lathe, I'm sure you'd have some funky stuff going on.
Yeah.
Once you tried to dry it out.
All right. Well, thank you.
You got it.
Sure appreciate all the time you put in the demo.
No, no problem.
Stephen, are you muted?
Hey, Steve, we can't hear you.
Okay, all right, how about now? Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, sorry.
You're fine.
Yeah, Greg, I have one more piece here. I'm going to show you that
Okay.
that actually the inspiration was, has nothing to do with turning green wood. It's actually one of mine, but just give me a second here to find it in the gallery here. So, and let me just share my screen again. So this is about as far as you can get from green wood. It's a punky or wormy pecan that was stabilized, and it was stabilized with cactus juice, and then the wormholes filled with resin. And the resin in this one is almost clear, and it was originally, I had it turned as a bowl and sitting on the table. Because the resin was clear, there was too much interference coming from the whatever it was sitting on, and I didn't like it. And then after your demo, I was trying to figure out what to do with it. So after your demo, I actually came up with that shape. It's about 6 inches tall, but it just, the inspiration for the form came from your demo. So just not a podlet at all, but
no, but it's nice. It's really nice. What's the base turned out of? What kind of wood is that?
It's maple with black gloss lacquer on it.
Okay.
And because when you stabilize stuff, it's pretty heavy. I put so the base is at the bottom is about 2.5 inches or so across. At its narrowest point, that pedestal is just over. It's just over an eighth. But I drilled an 1/8 inch hole through the center of that. Put an 1/8 inch brass rod into that pedestal so it would support the. And then I actually extended that up, and it comes in and it goes into a little recess in the bottom of the bowl when I glued it on. So it actually helps hold it on there because I was worried about it cracking. But when I turned the first one, I didn't like the form because it was too fat, but it got too wobbly when I tried to make it thinner. So anyway, there's only about a 32nd of an inch of wood over the brass rod in its thinnest section there. But anyway, I turned that after, just a couple days after your demo, and it just trying to figure out what to do with it. So, it's not really a podlet, but
no,
but again,
I do like the base though. Well, I like it all, but I like the base. I like the form, and I do like the shape a lot.
It would have been really impressive if you had bent the stem.
Yeah, that brass rod would have been tough in the microwave. So anyway, so
yeah, I like that.
All right, so that is all the ones. Greg, you're welcome to hang out if you want, but we certainly understand if you have more important things to do. But we do appreciate you joining us for at least this part of the
you got
demo.
It. Yeah, I'm gonna go grab some dinner.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thanks
Greg.
for having me again, guys. Yeah.
Thank
you guys
you.
take care. You got it.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
We'll see you around. Bye-bye.
All right. Let me get back to you.
You know, I own some of Greg's pieces. if I'd been smart, I would have submitted them in show and tells if I made it myself, and then see if what his reaction would be.
Yeah. Yeah, they probably, you gonna claim ownership on them?
You know, would he be polite or would he go, "Hey"? Would he call me out?
Well, I imagine he would recognize him as his, but
You would
Yeah,
think.
I think that'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
Should have done it. Dang it.
Then we could get into a discussion about doing the right thing, giving people
Yeah.
credit.
There you go.
all right, let's get back into, so these are the ones that just the general submissions, and we'll start with Greg. Greg, are you muted? Norm, can you see if he's muted or not? I can't, I lose my participant screen when I share my screen, so.
He was muted. I asked him to unmute. He is muted. Greg, you're muted. You are still muted, Greg.
Earth to Greg.
Or just press this.
There it is. Sorry. Internet was spotty. Just
Yeah, you're breaking up, Greg.
And you all kidding me about my microphone.
Greg, turn your camera off, or turn the video off, and the audio should come through better.
okay. I've stopped the video. Can you hear me?
Much
Yes.
better.
Okay.
All right.
So, all right. Resin screwdrivers. I have two different ones. So this is a ratcheting resin scrubber kit from Woodcraft. Actually 4 different screwdriver heads in here. But the main event is the Punky Cypress, which I poured deep pour resin into. I used, in this case, a lot of times I build my own forms, but in this case I used a relatively newly available Woodcraft tool handle form, which is made of silicone, and it's about, gives you a 2-inch by 2-inch by 8-inch void to fill. So I put resin of various colors and the Punky Cypress. I bought the Punky Cypress for a river stool I also made with river, but it has no turning on it. So one of the bad things I did here was that I did not use a pressure pot. I don't own a pressure pot. I don't own a compressor. I don't really have the storage for it. So even though there are a lot of voids, the general guidance is if you have voids in your wood, and Punky Cypress has a lot of voids in it, you should put the resin and the punky wood into a pressure pot, apply pressure, and it will force the resin into the voids. Well, since I don't have that set up, I just do multiple pours. I've got a piece of Punky Cypress, I pour some resin in, it might be red, it might be green, whatever I'm working on that day. And eventually I fill it all, and then I put what you see as a triangle or sliver into the form and pour in the deep pour resin with azure blue in it, in this case. And if I find any holes at the end, I would fill them with 5.
I think we lost you again, Greg.
Greg, we lost your audio again.
All right. Well, let's see if we can get back to Greg later, if he manages to rejoin us. Well, what's going on the internet tonight? All right. Let's, we'll move past. Jeff, are you there? You need to unmute.
Okay, first apologies to Norm once again, too big a file size, but I'm trying hard. Visited my son's new home. He'd cut down a small maple tree. Figured I'd make him some pieces out of it. This is the first maple goblet, about 9 inches high, 3 inches diameter with a couple of coats of lacquer on it. Decided to leave it natural top and bottom.
Guess I could have put this one in with the green, in with the podlets.
I actually did a podlet, but didn't get a chance to get a picture. Most of what I did with it was use some fancy pearlescent pigment, and I couldn't get a decent picture of it.
So is this turned green?
Oh, real green. It's split, and the crack you're looking at, actually, you're the one who suggested it, Steve. Filled it with coffee grounds and super glue.
Okay, good. So it's dry now. It was turned green and then dried.
Turned green, filled, let it sit about a month, and then lacquered it.
Okay.
So you just add water and it's coffee?
Yeah, if you can deal with the super glue, yes.
All right.
Jeff and everyone, thank you. The photos were all perfectly fine this time around. Nobody had anything bigger than 2 meg, and that's all I ask.
I thought mine was closer to 3. Oh, well, you're welcome.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jim, you're back up.
Yeah, this is Cadillacs and maple, just a simple box. This was an experiment. Every now and then I get a piece of wood or something that I don't want a loose fitting or a slip fitting lid on the box. I made it splined or with pins so that if I ever made one that would have a grain pattern on the outside, I would do this. It's kind of interesting. The top 3 holes are in a pattern of 6. It's 3 of 6. And the bottom 2 are divided into equal spaces with whatever is left. So this will only go on one way. So if you had a figure in the side of the wood or something, you could make it line up. Just fun to try.
So
How the heck did you drill those holes to match perfectly?
I took the first 2 pieces of wood and put them together, laid out what I was doing in the pin centers and drilled the holes all the way through them and put pins in, lined it all up and glued the top and bottom to it.
So they're through holes?
Yep.
So through holes on the piece, on the base piece with the holes in it, those holes go all the way through that piece.
Yeah.
Okay. And you did that before you glued it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would have made a ring with the holes just randomly drilled. If that would have been a solid block of wood, I'd have made a ring with the holes randomly drilled and clamped it on there in the right position, drilled the top, and then put the ring on the bottom piece and drilled the bottom.
You always do the hardest looking thing the easiest way, Jim.
Oh, yeah. Well, you only see the good ones.
So did you, are those just like birch dowels or something for the pins or?
Yeah. You mean, did I turn them?
Yeah, did you turn them?
No.
That was my question. I was getting there.
I said the easiest way, didn't I?
These are dowels. they started out to be longer, but in fact, they could be a little shorter even, but it's kind of neat. Also, my wife's making boxes and she doesn't like to do the slit fits. So I figured if I made a ring, she can drill these and do whatever she wants to the top and bottom of the wood and put pins in one part. Or you can put half pins in the top and half pins in the bottom, you know,
Right.
whatever. But anyway, it lines up so that you don't have to put it together and twist it to get the grain pattern. You put it together and it's lined up. Whether I like it or not, I don't know, but
No, that's interesting. I mean, it fits so well. I had the same question Norm did when it is like, how did you get that to line up? So you essentially turned the outside after it was assembled. You know, the top and bottom were
inside and outside, yes.
Right. Okay.
Inside and outside. Just the two, the top black ring and that grooved maple ring were put together in flat boards, in flat square boards, laid out, drilled, pinned, and then cut on the bandsaw around. And then I glued the top and bottom to them anywhere you want to go. Clamp it up and turn it.
So I'm guessing that if you tried to put the box together incorrectly with the grain not lining up, the pins probably won't even seat properly, right?
Oh no, it's not even close.
And
No,
you probably
on the
had to
pin
use
layout,
a drill press to get the pins exactly perpendicular, right?
oh yeah, yeah. I can't do anything with a hand drill. Lord, I'd have pins all over the place.
And they're done that.
But the top three pins are in a pattern that would be like a hexagon. There's only 3 of the pins. These top 3 pins that would be a design of 6 that I only use 3 of. And then the bottom 2 pins are just dividing up equally the space between them. So there's no way it would fit any other way.
Thank you for that. That's a great, very simple idea. That's really cool.
Yeah. You could probably do it with 4 pins, but I don't know. 5 makes it line up nice.
Jim, you hit on a real good idea though. If you had part of the pins in the top and part in the bottom, it automatically would know where to rotate the top to put it on.
Terry, some of my customers would and some wouldn't.
Okay.
And Lord help you if they're real strong.
How did you finish it, Jim?
That's lacquer.
So is Cadillac's a wood? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, Mexican ebony.
Oh, okay.
You call it.
All right. Well, thank you, Jim. That's very interesting. All right, Land.
Yeah, go to the other picture first. Yeah, that one. I make lots of cups and spoons and things like that, and I have 3 chucks that I hollow with, so I make them all standard sizes. Well, this was a special piece of wood somebody needed, and of course it didn't fit any of the standard sizes I make. So what I did was try to make something to adapt it to a chuck. And I was amazed at how well this worked. I should have been doing this for the past 10 years. Because literally all it is just, I turned the dowel and then drilled a hole through it and bought longer screws, and it mounted directly to the jaws. And now go to the other picture. And you can see there's perfect for hollowing. And I was quite aggressive with it. That's the first one I did. I wanted to see how it would do. So it worked like a champ.
What are the black caps on the end?
Those are just the little buttons from the cold jaws. They're rubber.
So do those screws go all the way through the dowel, starting from the button all the way
Yeah.
down into the chuck?
They do. They go all the way through and straight into the slides in the chuck. And now I can make any size I want within the range of the chuck.
Nice idea, Len. I was in that same situation a few weeks ago when I made my wooden donut, and I only have those little rubber pieces. And I looked on the web where to buy longer ones, and they sell them for whatever, $45, $55.
Yeah,
This is a nice solution. Congratulations.
I was too cheap for the $45 buttons too.
I was too. I didn't buy them. Now I know what to do.
I have used wine bottle stoppers, the urethane wine bottle stoppers, to do that same kind of job.
Wow. So y'all faced this before, huh?
Yep.
I thought it was brand new.
Well,
it's brand new to me, so I'm impressed. That's cool.
The solution is brand new, Len. Great job.
Thank you.
My only caution is to stay out of the line of fire.
Oh, of course.
Just yeah, because boy, that's a lot of leverage on those small bolts. So
yeah, but you got to remember it's a very small piece, and
yep.
even though it's spinning, anything can come off at any time.
Yep. So, all right, Greg, did I hear your voice? Are you back? No,
I don't think so.
No, okay. All right. Let's see, Mark. Once again.
Okay, hey guys, I'm back. So as you can see, this is a walnut calabash. It doesn't have the Stefan little flip at the top, but I just went rogue with it and did it my way. It was an interesting piece of wood. I actually got this from Mike Smith. He cut a couple slabs out of a big log he had out there for me. So I've had this wood for 4 years. Actually did the rough turning almost 3 years ago. It is a flawed piece of wood. There are 5 knots going through it. So at a risk of some really big cracks, but I think, doing the rough turning and getting rid of most of the mass, there was some cracking from the pith, but, all that was fine. I stabilized it as I went. Anyway, so it's held together, and it's really a lovely piece of wood. I find the walnut, really challenging. It scratches just as easily as any other wood, but it takes much longer to get the scratches out than with most, and they just show up. But anyway, so there it is. It's a nice big calabash.
Mark, on the back side of this picture, the streaking that's up in this area, is that just natural to the wood? I mean,
I just with the 2 photographs, I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I did take a couple others that really shows that it has amazing chatoyance over there. It's incredible figuring. It's all shimmering up and down. So that's what you're seeing is kind of the backside of that.
I was wondering because it looks like that's what it is, and yeah, the figure in this. I mean, I guess the disadvantage of having those 5 knots is that it, creates problems and stability potential cracking. But boy, it sure added.
Well, exactly.
A lot of figure to the piece.
Right. It makes the wood unstable, makes it difficult to keep together, but I think this is fine. Like I said, I rough turned this almost 3 years ago. And then I had my back problem. So it sat. And so, the cracks aren't going any further than they are. Again, I didn't include the photographs on here, but I filled them with epoxy dyed black,
Right.
and it really worked really well. You know, it doesn't disappear, but you know, I think it shows the cracks off a little bit.
Right.
Do you
No,
know
that's
where the wood came from?
No, other than at Mike Smith's place. That's as far as I know. I assume it's regional if it was out there.
right. That's so does it sit flat or does it rock?
It rocks. It is round on the bottom. I've been tending to make them, you know, fairly close to flat, so they're not too tippy. Although maybe that's taking the easy way out. Maybe I should have more roll in them. So I'm really going to try, at least on smaller calabashes, to see what I can get away with.
Right. That's nicely done.
The red in the wood, the red in the wood is usually grown in the south in red dirt. And the reason I asked was because the grain is so close together, it must have been in bad growing conditions, or usually that kind of stuff comes from north where they don't have good growing conditions. But the red in the wood is definitely from the south. Beautiful.
Well, thanks for that, Jim.
Sure.
All right. Michael, too much time on his hands early.
Yep, either crazy or stupid, or I'm not sure which one, but I've kind of gone down the rabbit hole on this basket illusion stuff. So this is segmented hard maple, 12 inches tall, roughly. Well, it's 12 inches, and then 7 inches in diameter. I think there's 8,500 little squares in there, and then colored with the what do you call it? The pit pens, the artistic pens.
So the piece was segmented to start with?
Yep. Yeah, so I built the segmented vase, turned that to finish form, then beaded it, then indexed it, burned it, and then colored it. So probably, I don't know, close to 50 hours.
I mean, it's a spectacular piece. I mean, the pattern of that burning on that shape, on that form, the way it kind of just points down to the base, to me was just stunning.
Thanks.
I love this piece.
If you took out the color, it looks like hearts from an old Nintendo video game.
Right.
But then once I try to do a gradient in the turquoises to make it look like had some depth, kind of scale, like scales, you know?
Right.
All I got to say is these darn overachievers. Beautiful.
Don't ask what the segmenting did. Why didn't you just have a vase out of solid wood and then burn and color it?
I guess you could. The problem that I've run into is, one, finding a piece of solid wood that's dry enough and large enough to get the form that I wanted. And then behind that, dry enough and then clean enough. So, you know, knot holes, discolorations in the wood, all those kind of things. So really what I wanted was a blank canvas to start with. So I had some maple lumber, you know, 4/4, and I have a segmenting sled, and I've done some segmenting work in the past, and I was like, well, hell, I'll just build my own blank. So that was the thought process behind it.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys have any large pieces of maple that's completely clean that you don't love, you're welcome to donate it to me. But in the meantime, I guess I'll be gluing up blocks and making rings.
But why does it need to be clean? You're coloring it anyway.
Because the parts that aren't colored, it'll show discolorations in the wood, knots, those kind of things.
Or the yellow is not colored, that's a natural wood?
Yeah, so if you look, there's 6 rows per scale. The first 2 are colored a darker turquoise, a light turquoise, and the bottom 2 are uncolored.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Really
So
nice.
do you have any problems with the segmenting as you create the burned lines that it goes into the, does it tend to want to go into the joints or anything on the segmenting, or do you try to make it so the lines end up on the segments, or?
No, this one actually, so the rings, if you've done segmenting and you've used the wedgie sled and all that kind of stuff, those rings almost fit like hand in glove or whatever. They're damn near perfect. So if I had to do it myself with a miter saw, it'd be all over the place. So that jig makes it really easy. But to your point, on one of the rings up towards the bend, like in the shoulder area, there was, I mean, a slight, I don't know, not a crack, but a slight where the two segments didn't fit together perfectly. You might be able to put a little piece of paper between it. And I did line up and burn the first line on that to hide that imperfection. But other than that, I just burned every line and didn't have any problems.
It was just random where everything else lined up. Okay.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Like I said, I love this. This is for this piece.
Absolutely.
It just really struck me when I saw it.
Thanks.
So the
I
whole
appreciate it.
segmented vase is actually
50 hours. My God, I couldn't even start it in 50 hours.
But a lot of this though, the segmenting part, you stand at the table saw and you cut segments for whatever, an hour. And then I literally sit in the recliner I'm sitting in now with the TV tray in front of me and a piece of sandpaper. And while I'm watching TV, I sand each segment to make sure there's no burrs. And then I glue the rings while I'm watching TV. And, and then after I burn, I sit there and color while I'm watching TV. So it's not like 50 hours standing at the lathe. It's really just watching, I don't know. I watch a lot of documentaries or true crime stuff. I'm watching that, but coloring at the same time and then taking a break because your eyes start to cross.
So you deduct the TV time from that, right?
Yeah. I'm all caught up on Netflix. If anybody has any suggestions on new stuff, let me know.
Do you use a wedgie sled? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I built the wedgie sled,
Yeah.
and then I ordered the wedgies. So this is the 16.
I'm using
And
the
yes,
wedgie
Bob,
sled.
that $50 an hour. That's something else I was thinking about. Bob just commented about price. I was thinking if I charged $20 an hour, it's still a hefty price tag. That piece is actually going to my mother as a gift. I haven't tried to sell one yet. I've just been giving them to my family members. So this is, to answer the earlier question, I'm hiding it where the holder is on that stand, that plate stand. On the bottom left-hand side, you can see some discoloration. So I'm being tricky. If you pulled that off of the plate stand, there's a big hole there because that was where a knot hole was. They went through the piece of natural wood. And after going through all the effort, I thought, well, hell, I don't care. I'll just keep going. So that is why I started doing some segmenting on the bigger pieces, just so I don't run into any surprises later or discolorations deep in the wood or whatever. And that one there. So these are all in, it's like well, you can see it really good here. At the top of the picture, you can see where that discoloration is, where that knot hole from a branch is. So these are all in 2.5 degree segments. So it's 120 spokes around. And then those are 1/8 inch beads with the D-Way tool. So I figure out, how many beads, so I know there's 120 per turn. How many beads do I have? Do the math. This is 7,800 squares.
More patience than I have.
I thought the same thing. I'm not joking, you guys. I'm pretty, I don't know what you call it. Instant gratification. I don't really, typically if I make something, I like to start it in the morning and finish it by the afternoon and call it a done piece. But because this is not all shop time, it's sitting on the recliner and stuff. It's actually pretty therapeutic. If somebody's interested in doing it, I recommend it. It's kind of relaxing.
And Michael, you may have told that in the past. What was the inspiration? Where did you see this before? What gave you the idea? Not this
So
particular pattern, but just the weaved basket copy.
what did I see? I think I saw a video or I saw something on Instagram, and then that sent me down the rabbit hole, and I started searching for people. And you guys, Harvey Meyer out of Atlanta, he does some. If you guys are on Instagram, just look up. I think he's Basket Illusionist is his username, but it's Harvey Meyer, and some of the stuff he creates is just, it puts all this to shame. So if you like this kind of work, go check out his stuff. It's just crazy. He does like a big vessel. He'll do the inside and outside of the vessel and make sure it's all colored so it all matches up. And it's just
Yeah.
I don't even know how many hours he's got into those pieces, but it's crazy.
Well, very nice. Nicely
He
done.
has to stop, open his hands manually and
probably
pry them off the pen and relax and get his hand back together because his hand gets frozen and yeah.
I'm sure.
Wow.
There's a bunch of videos on YouTube, with the basket illusion stuff. I don't know. I'm kind of going down the rabbit hole, so I apologize. I didn't do a podlet and I haven't done anything, but this is just taking me on a new direction, I guess.
No apologies needed. I mean, I said, and just to emphasize to everybody, you can submit whatever you want to these galleries. There's absolutely no pressure at all to do the theme. It's fun if we have the opportunity to do it. If not, just do what you love. And this is really nice.
Maybe we'll have a basket illusion box next month.
Yeah, who knows? That'd be cool. All right. Well, thanks, Michael.
Thanks, John.
And Michael, real quick, when you get close to the center, do the lines get narrower?
Yeah, they get crazy tight. So you have to almost stop. Like if one more, I'm sorry, I'll get out of my. So when you get real close to the center, I actually start burning every other line. Otherwise, it just turns into a black puddle of mud.
I was going to try to zoom in there, but it's not working.
Hey, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Norm.
Well, first off, let me thank our organizer this evening for letting me follow.
I did that on purpose.
The highly detailed, expansive artwork with a piece of crap that I tried to save years after first turning it. So bravo for that.
Not true.
I haven't turned anything in about a month and a half, just between work and everything else. And I had to basically redo my whole garage because I had a shelf collapse and didn't have room for anything. So I ended up finding all these old projects that I said, I'm not happy with this, but I'm going to figure out something to do with it later. And I put them all on a shelf where I can't avoid them anymore. And I've got myself disciplined where I'm not going to turn something new until I finish something old. Well, this was the something old. It was a natural edge Bradford pear piece that I just didn't, it was kind of plain. Bradford pear can be plain. The bark fell off, so it was a wavy edge, but it wasn't all that interesting. And years ago, I found a couple of nice maple leaves, and I just kind of lay them across it and trace the pattern out, and thought I was going to carve it as a relief carve. And I tried it. I don't know if anyone has ever tried carving Bradford pear, but it's a very hard and dense wood. It does not carve very well. So instead, thank you, Jeff Daneman, who several months ago offered to loan me his scroll saw.
You're welcome.
And I just went at it with the scroll saw. It worked really well. I didn't get the blades that were recommended to me. I ordered them, but they didn't come in that fast. I broke one blade. That's it. It's a little on the thick side. It's about 5/16. So it's a little on the thick side, but that actually works out for this because those points are not super thin and therefore fragile. Followed it up with a burning to finish the inside line. The funny thing is I spent a good couple of hours sanding all of the leaf surfaces on that edge from the bandsaw, get rid of the bandsaw marks, and then realized that, well, I really needed to burn it. So I probably shouldn't have bothered sanding it because I just burned it afterwards.
Yeah.
But it was just an interesting pattern. I like I should have given you a nice horizontal plane photo, but the bottom shot there kind of gives you the idea of it. Simple piece, wasn't very big. It was headed for the burn pile. I just wanted to try something different with it.
Very pretty. I like it.
Yeah, it'll it certainly, yeah, it's unique. No, it's a good save.
I agree.
Thanks.
I like it. Norm, do you know Raleigh? Raleigh Turns, I think, or Raleigh's
Yeah,
Journey.
Yep.
Yep. He does some really cool stuff with leaves too.
He cuts them first. He cuts his blanks in the bandsaw and then turns them, which is really nice. And I've done that with non-leaf forms.
Gotcha.
This was this after the fact save.
And the only reason why is I actually ended up in a conversation with him a couple weeks ago on Instagram, which made me go, oh yeah, it triggered my memory.
And so I have one thing to say, whenever I talk to segmenters, I ask the same thing. Why do you hate turning so much?
Yeah, I think the turning part takes about 20 minutes. It's the build your own blank part that takes 10 hours.
Yep.
Is there a finish
No,
on
if
that?
you could-
Norm?
Not yet. No, I was gonna I might lacquer it because of the burn, but I'll see what I got.
Okay. Good. All right. Moving on, Preston.
Hey guys, this is one. Back in 2016, I had to go back to our Facebook page to find out the date of this when I did this. But this was a chunk of wood that we got from Mike, I assume, that was dripping wet, and Ashley had us turn a bowl, and since it was wet, I just threw it on a shelf and didn't look at it for a while. And I think I put screws or nuts in it for the longest time. And then I finally said, well, I've got to finish that. So I kept working on it, and it warped pretty bad. As you can see from the top picture, it was even worse than that. And I just kept playing with it and kept playing with it, and they got thinner and thinner. And I said, well, I better stop here. And I just think that the heartwood has got some really interesting figure to it. The maple, I assume that's what it is, but it's just a cool piece. Turned out to be cool.
Preston, you and I talked about this over Instagram already. I love this piece. I love the form. I love that foot on the bottom. I love that contrast between the heartwood and the sapwood, that grain. It's just a great piece.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm in agreement, Preston. It's really, really nice. Well done.
Yeah, I third that. That's really, really nice.
It's not often with maple that you see that much contrast. I mean, usually it fades with time. The fact that this is, you said, what, 6 years old, and it hasn't faded. That's odd that it has that much contrast to it. So no, nicely done.
I should have taken a picture when it was turned and then just laying on the shelf. But of course I forget to do that stuff ahead of time, right?
That's nice.
Thanks guys for that. I do want to say that maybe I feel sort of comfortable with bowls because I've done more of them than I did the spindle stuff, especially the podlet, but I felt like a rookie trying to do the podlet, and I was so nervous. But from something like this, I'm a little more comfortable.
The people will act like bowl turning is, it's bowl turning, but there's an art to getting that gradual curve and that small foot. And I'm not saying I'm an expert at it. I'm just saying, looking at all those different pieces of work across the globe, and you start seeing their interpretation or their form, and it takes a lot to get those proportions. It really does, to where it's like pleasing to your eye. And this one, I just think is really well balanced.
Yeah. Hey, well, thank you so much.
Remember what Alan Leland says about spindle turning. Every moment spent practicing your spindle turning makes you a better turner on spindles and bowls. So
Yeah.
it's worth pursuing it.
Good. All right. Nicely done.
Thank you.
All right. Richard, are you here?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, this is a piece of elm that I cut down in Durham last year. And it's been sitting in my truck all this time, spalting. And it's, this is actually 1/2 of a crotch. It was much longer and I had to cut the ends off, and then I had to split it in half. So this is the shallow bowl that's about 12 inches, and the other one will be closer to 14 inches when I get to turning it. It's really that simple. The finish on it is Dr. Woodturners, which basically is a linseed oil and shellac and alcohol. So it dries real quickly, and that's the color I gave it. Then once that was dried, now this was all done on Wednesday, from pulling out the chainsaw and cutting it down to getting it inside and turning it. Once it was turned, it's finished, and with the Doctor's Woodturners, I think it's from Pins Plus, whatever. And then once that was dry, the shellac was dry, I sprayed it with Minwax polyurethane just to kind of give it that satin sheen. And that's pretty much all there is to it. It's real simple shape, just an OG. It looks a little rough on the bottom edge of the side view. That's because I edited out all the shadows when I was putting things together, and it didn't quite do the magic wand like it should have, but it was close enough.
The grain on that is really artistic. I mean, that's beautiful to me.
I agree.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Looks like watercolors.
It does. What I do when I turn this is just turned between centers, 2 steb centers. The bottom is actually the center of the piece of wood, because I want to make sure and get every bit of figure I can out of the crotch. So I always put the center of the crotch at the bottom of a bowl so that I'll get all that figure. And then I turn away, everything down to that. It's about 1/8 of an inch thick.
So this was still somewhat green when you finished it then, right? So, I mean, you said it was been sitting around for a year, but it was still in log form for that year?
Yeah.
So do you expect it to move now, or?
It was pretty dry when I finished. I mean, not bone dry, but it was, it's sealed with shellac now, and it hasn't moved at all since then. If I put it back on the lathe, it probably wouldn't turn true.
Right.
An 1/8 inch thick, though, I imagine it is pretty close to stable.
Oh, I turn things thin. Yeah. It actually, I don't turn it thin on purpose. I turn it to where it feels right. Okay. And for this shallow bowl and the size, that was the thickness that worked. And it's just a tiny bit thinner in the bottom. I mean, thicker in the bottom than it is as you come up the OG. And that's so it gives it, some weight down there so it'll sit right.
Tell you what, anybody puts salad in that, I'm gonna smack their hands.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
like an
thing.
that's an artisan piece. That's something that goes on display, in my opinion.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Well,
That's my problem is I do the base that thin, and usually there's an oops or some other word soon after because it goes through the bottom. But
well,
that
like I
is
say,
beautiful.
I turned it between centers. You know, it has the wood on each side, so I'll take my micro motor rotary tool, and I'll put in a saber tooth, the yellow bit, which is kind of a fine bit, and I'll just kind of work away at it until it's gone. The centerpiece that was facing the top, which is the left side, you know, it comes down to a point. I guess that point was about 3/8 of an inch. And when I backed off my tail center, it just kind of fell off. But it still had a nipple there. So I took my motor tool and I just ground it down to width. You got to be careful now because you can go too far and give it a dimple in there. So what you want to do is get it down close, and then you come up with your rotary sander and sand it off just perfectly smooth. And you do the same on the other side. Of course, it was probably 3/4 of an inch in diameter and probably ½ inch tall. So I had more grinding to do on the base. And once it was down very, very close, but not, you know, absolute bottom, then I came back with my rotary sander and sanded it where it was just, you know, spot on. And I finished the top first, and then I went upstairs and I signed it. You'll notice on the right hand side where it says Cook 2021. And then once that was done, I went downstairs and lightly sanded over the Cook so the edges were sharp, and put the doctor's Woodturners finish on it so that it would have the same color as the other side. Let it sit for a little while, and then I sprayed it with Minwax polyurethane just to give it that satin sheen.
All right.
And that's it.
Nicely done. That's a spectacular piece of wood.
Thank you. I'm excited to see how the other one's going to turn out.
All right, Bob.
Well, this is just a little bit of fun and games. Like other people, I save bits and pieces of pretty things, and once in a while go on a bottle stopper binge. And in the last week or so, I did all of these. There's walnut here, there's rosebud here, there's ambrosia maple here, and I've got no idea what the thing second from the right is. Finish with triple E and Renaissance wax.
The second from the right, could that be Madagascar ebony?
It could, like I said, I save what I think are really interesting chunks for the grain pattern, and then periodically I'll do a dozen of these things. And so that one, I thought it turned out really interesting, but I've got no idea what it is.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, still beautiful.
That's fun to I do the same thing with bottle opener handles. Just get into the mode and just crank them out. That's fun.
And this is wood from our last wood sale. We had those big chunks of walnut, and even though it doesn't look like it, the one on the left is, the base is laminated to the top, and it's just walnut oil and Renaissance wax.
The one on the right, that's also walnut on the top?
Yes, in fact, these two are out of the same piece. I glued the maple to both ends and then cut it in half and hollowed them.
Well, I don't,
They don't even look vaguely similar.
don't look related. That's nice. Glad to see people are using wood from the wood sale.
Just to encourage everybody to come to the next wood sale.
All right, Stefan.
Yeah, this is not completed. I have an order for a salad bowl set, and it's been left up completely to me what to create, what wood, what shape, what size. But I know the person, and she likes simple things, or straightforward, clear, clean things. So this is out of cherry wood, and the small bolts, they're not complete. They still have the foot that needs to be turned off, and the one in the left back is already finished, but I don't like the shininess, and the front ones are not finished at all. Beautiful wood, lots of reddish and pinkish tones to it. My challenge really is I have enough of the little pieces of wood, so I was able to make actually 8 of the little ones. But to find a big salad bowl for the middle is much more difficult. This one is 10 inches across. That's not really big. That's good for probably 4 people, maybe a little small. I think a more optimal salad bowl may be 12 inches for 4 or 6 people. So that's been challenging. I've been looking at my wood in my workshop to see, do I have big pieces for the middle? And then the next one, oh no, actually we didn't have the next one, Stephen, right?
Yeah, this is just the only picture here.
Yeah, so then I've also tried the whole setup with the small ones in the middle to have a walnut bowl, and that's too much of a contrast, the really dark, almost black, and the cherry. And then I've tried red oak in the middle, and that doesn't really fit. The oak is much more coarse compared to the delicate cherry structures. And then the most recent one I've used, which looks pretty okay, is a spalted sycamore. And I think that may be the one that I will like. But my plan is whenever people order or commission things, which with me is not that often, but I like to make 3 solutions for them, different ones, and then offer them these 3 ones and ask them, what do you like? So this is one solution because they really wanted 4 small ones and a middle one. And then I'll offer them a solution with 6 little ones and the larger sycamore. And then maybe I'm going to finish the walnut and see what that looks like. So I thought I'd open it up for anybody who comments. Have you made salad bowl sets, and any comments? Alan, Falk, you haven't said anything tonight. Are you okay? Okay.
Got to unmute myself to answer. No, Stephen, that I like the shape. They're very simple. They're very nice for salad bowls. Is that one in the back right? Is that got a pedestal on it, or?
It does, but it's good. The 3 of them still have the pedestal, but it's not a pedestal. It's going to be turned off. It was just the foot where it goes into the chuck. They will all be like the one on the left back side, flat.
Okay, that makes more sense. That had me worried for a minute there. You know, I've just been admiring all the work that's gone before. Really beautiful, beautiful stuff.
It's always a challenge to try to find enough matching pieces. So when I've done it, you either try to match, or you, like you're doing, you just say, okay, here's the salad bowl, and then here's the smaller. It's a lot easier to make, find smaller pieces that are somewhat similar. But I find that if I try to match them, then the differences get more obvious. Whereas if you make them contrasting, you can get away with a lot more. So I think you're on the right track with going with the contrasting. Certainly if you're going with even with more than 4, but even to find, you know, you looked at the 2 pieces that Bob showed just in the previous slide of that same piece of walnut, same blank, and they look totally different. And people
Yeah.
don't realize that there's that much difference in the wood. So, you know, I'm of the school of, you know, endorse the differences rather than trying to make them the same. But that's just how I've done it.
Well, the other option is just make a bunch of segmented bowls and they'll all be the same.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna suggest. The other thing, Stefan, is you can try maple also. It's a little bit more of a subtle contrast with the cherry. They do go fairly well together. The grains are very similar.
Yeah, salad bowls are a sore subject for me because I made my wife a set of 12 bowls with a large center bowl. And I decided after I got the Beal system that I could make them shiny. And I put the big bowl on the lathe and I started it at the highest speed on the lathe because I thought the handle pointed to the speed. But anyway, it flew into a million pieces. So I have all these bowls now, and I need to make her a large bowl to go with it. But what I did was cherry for a top ring, and I used hard maple for the bottom, and it came out very nice for the 12 bowls. Granted, I think it's really 11 and a piece because the 12th one was very thin in the bottom. But yeah, salad bowls are kind of a difficult subject for me right now.
Stephen, I had one other comment I was thinking about. When you had all these different kinds of wood, you could go whole hog the other way and just have all the smaller bowls out of different kinds of wood, and everybody would know which solid bowl is theirs, and you have just use the contrast as the selling point, if you will.
Alan, great. We're thinking alike. I've tried that too. Yeah, it's a great idea, and I've taken multiple pale woods and put them together. The problem there that I ran into is that some of the pale woods turn yellowish when you seal them and when you polish them. And the yellow and pale doesn't look good next to each other. But yeah, you could do a cherry and then a black walnut and then a real pale, whatever, American holly. I like that idea too. I've played with it and I will continue playing with it.
And you can end up with a whole bunch of different bowls that you can mix and match other ways or whatever. But it just struck me as that you could try to make them all the same or just go opposite direction.
But I also like the idea that you take a ring. So you can take a bowl of whatever color below and then you put a little cherry ring on top. So that bridges the little ones. That's a great idea too.
Yeah.
Another idea is if you use a wood that has more natural variety in it. So like I've been working with the sweet gum, for instance. No 2 pieces are going to look alike, but they all look like they belong together. So then you get it all mixed up, but still you have a cohesive set.
All right, let's move on here. Tom, you there?
Yep, I'm here. I had some ambrosia maple from a tree that was cut down at the end of my street. And I got several chunks from the base of the tree. I really like working with these tree cutters because whenever they cut it exactly the way I needed it cut to the length, and they even rip some down the middle, some of the chunks down the middle. And then they wouldn't even allow me to pick them up. They put them on my truck for me. So that was real nice. But these, and then I I realized it had the ambrosia effect in it on some of it. And when I rough turned the bowls, I actually put them in plastic bins with the wood chips, and I added water in with that and that over the couple months they were in there, it darkened and grayed the wood. And when I took it out, got it dried, and now these are just now I'm finishing the bowls up, and I finish them with a friction polish made with boiled linseed oil, amber shellac, and denatured alcohol. And I do that. I got put about 8 coats. I like them a little bit shiny. That's my personal preference. And these came out pretty nice. They, I really like the effects that I ended up with. So these are all going to end up being Christmas presents. So I did. And I think there's one more picture that shows you how the bases are.
Yeah, I just have one of the pictures here.
Okay, there's two. There's 2 styles that I do, and I've been making these with the legs on them, but this is a newer technique I've used to actually create these. I was grinding away the material between the feet. Now what I do is I secure the bowl to my bench, and I use a coping saw to cut the bulk of the material away, and it speeds up making these much, much faster. It takes very little time to clean up from the coping saw. You just have to be careful you don't go too deep. And so it's fun to do with legs. The picture that's not shown is just a very plain bottom. So I do both styles, and had a lot of fun with these. It's free wood, so I love that.
Yeah, very
What I want
cooperative.
to know is that the guys you work with that load your truck for you and everything, did they need more friends?
I don't know, but I did slip them a little money. They sometimes I've done this a couple of times, and sometimes it's hard to actually communicate with them because they don't actually speak English. But it's not, and it seems like I've gotten a couple different maple trees and a hickory tree, and then a red oak tree, all from my street. And then a friend of mine from my church invited me to his house, and he gave me a bunch of white oak. And like I had some pieces that were maybe 15 inches in diameter of the white oak, and but then I got greedy, and I've got some that's almost 2 feet in diameter. It took 3 of us to load each of those couple pieces on the back of my truck. And I says, I probably overdid it on that one. My little chainsaw is not going to deal with those very well. But I got the rest of it cut up, and the smaller pieces, I cut up a bunch of old blanks, and it'll be really interesting when that stuff's ready to finish out the bowls.
Yeah, that's the nice. It's nice to just stumble upon ambrosia maple. The figure on those are nicely done.
I wasn't anticipating this at all when I got the tree down, but it just like, oh yeah, that ambrosia beetle was busy in there. And some of them have quite a bit of figure, and some of them have very little, depending on how infested it was.
Yep. No, that's nice.
Yeah. I was doing a knitting bowl for a friend and wound up, rather than using a coping saw, I bought a jeweler's saw and some of those spiral blades. It makes things like cutting the waste out from between those little feet a whole lot easier, because you can go basically up, down, right, left, any direction you want, because the blade's round instead of flat.
That's a great idea.
I think that's a fantastic idea. I didn't even think of that. The coping saw, you do have to deal with it, turning the blade and everything. It's not hard, but it's more finicky than a spiral blade would be. I think I might have to do that. I love that idea. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, let's move on here. A couple more. This is my other one. This is redwood. This is from Mike Smith's junk pile. I've been down there cleaning up some of his shop area, and this has some minor cracks in it. I'd never turned redwood before, but I was just, I mean, that is the color. I mean, it's really very dusty, but it's like a lot like turning cedar, but you don't see the chatoyance in there, but it's just a shallow platter. But the figure in this was just really spectacular. And again, this is just, there are a couple cracks that they were closed. I just put CA in them and turned it. So yeah, just it's about 12 inches. So
Pretty color, and I really like the shape of it too, top and bottom.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Great grain.
It was just surprised. I have another one, and I'll probably show next month. Another piece of redwood that's just absolutely totally different. So you just never know.
I like the bottom right quadrant with those little swirls. Really pretty.
So, Greg Smith, are you back?
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Hold on one second. Let me get back to your piece here, because with that we'll be done.
So let's finish the resin screwdrivers, and I'll leave the 3-ring bowls for next month, because the internet problem is my end. The satellite internet went out.
Okay. Yeah, let me just, there it is. All right. One too much. All right, so there we are, that one and this one.
Okay, so I think I described the pour with deep pour epoxy. The other things is, well, the finish, trying to remember, I probably put, I sanded to 320, put clear shellac on, and then sprayed with lacquer. The difference between the two pictures, this one is number 2, and to my dismay, Woodcraft changed the format of their ratcheting multiple point screwdriver kits over time. And this is the second one. You see how it's got the standard kind of 1-inch long screwdriver points in the end. The other one had like 2.5 or 2-inch long dual-sided screwdriver points. And I've made a lot of non-ratcheting screwdrivers before, and I like just working the longer bit on the one that is shown now on the screen. But thinking about the screwdriver industry, I think the number 2, Steve, if you could switch to the other picture, makes more sense. You see, because in reality, with the way that screws are now, you really can't get by with 4 bits: a straight bit, an Engel, a Phillips bit, 1 torque, and maybe 1 square drive bit. You need 6 bits. Straight Phillips, 2 torque hex screws, and 2 square drive sets, which I can achieve in the picture you see here. So I hollowed out. I did this in I turned down a spindle and then in a chuck, and I hollowed out the end, and I put a super magnet in the bottom of that hollow. My normal regular strength magnets were just not good enough.
I put a super magnet, you know, a neodyne super magnet in there, and you can see I've got 5 bits in storage and 1 in the end, and I think that's the better format.
I think that's a very clever
Questions?
design. I like it.
Yep. So I think you'd find that, you know, spraying lacquer over resin, a lot of times you don't get that as smooth as you'd like to. It just, the surface tension, just, I haven't had good luck trying to do that. So a lot of times what I'll do is when I have wood and resin like that together, I'll go ahead and put a penetrating finish on the wood. And, you know, I'll do the whole thing with a penetrating finish, but then I put it back and I just polish off most of the finish off the resin, and then just polish it to 2000 using rubbing compound or the Beal Buff or whatever, and you end up with a mirror finish on the resin. So just because it almost looks like there's a little bit of orange peel on there. It could just be the lighting, but I've just found it hard to put finishes over resin and get a smooth finish on it.
The orange peel might give it a
Yeah,
little
I
better
mean,
grip.
I started out, you know, with resin. You know, I often find that I need to sand it, you know, really high to like 2000. But then I found if I, you know, stop at a normal level, like 240 or 320, and then hit it with spray lacquer, not a rubbing varnish, it smooths it all out. But clearly the resin needs more sanding than the wood.
Right.
How long are these, Greg? They look short in the pictures. How long is the tool?
Roughly 8 inches. I think this one might be 8 inches. The one before is a little longer, closer to 9. And the diameter is somewhere around 1.5, 1 3/4.
I think the photos just kind of distort the proportions.
Okay.
Yeah, that one's actually probably more. Yep. All right. So Greg, you said you wanted to leave the other one till next month?
Let's skip because, you know, I've got internet problems. I'll leave my 3-ring bowls to next month.
Okay. Do me a favor, just resend them, all right? Or we'll forget.
Will do. Will do.
All right. That is it for